shoulder on the side of my face. Should have adjusted the blinds differently. And check 1, 2. I don't know if anyone's going to be able to hear me. Again, until someone shows up, I don't know if this is working. So I will need someone to show up in the chat and say, we can hear you, and then I'll know. I will sit here by myself until then. I can hear you. Well, there you go. So someone can hear me. And I have audio. And now I'm waiting. Okay, so now everybody's going to tell me they can hear me. Okay, I know I can be heard now. So now I know I'm. All right, it works out. Happy Friday. So it's Friday. It's 85 degrees out. It's nice out. We're heading for the rendezvous. Next Friday, the opening of the rendezvous. The high should be 84, 85 degrees. The low in the mid 50s. So that should be the rendezvous weather. Clear skies. So that's what we're looking at coming into the rendezvous and the rest of the week. So there we are. When are you leaving to find the Spanish fortress? Oh, up by Geronimo's Cave. I don't know. We'll do it this winter sometime. That's one of those things on that checklist. So I don't know if we'll be able to do it over the rendezvous. Evening, Glenn. I don't know, because there's so much goes on with the rendezvous. Kind of limited, and that's a pretty good day to get there and back. So I don't know if that's while it's planned for this season, which would be November, December, January, February, March. It's the time of the year, I think, old Jake headed out of Phoenix. Well, I don't know how much he headed out of Phoenix because he was very old and he was not very healthy after the early 1880s. So those last 6, 7, 8 years, probably he didn't do much. Probably just hung around town. We know he was hanging around town when he died because he was in his house. And then that's what happened. See, so maybe he should have kept going prospecting, but there was a time he had to hang it up. So unfortunately, but yet rendezvous, not this weekend, but next weekend, the 3rd, 4th, and 5th. So you'll be out there Friday. Guest speaker Saturday night. Bring yourself some water, something to eat, and then there should be some people dumping a lot of firewood out there. We should be able to have some fireworks. He never worked the mine. Okay, so anyhow, one of the things we can just kick off as we're waiting for people to show up. And there are a lot of old Mexican mines. I don't know how many you term or deem Spanish, because the Spanish area is a little different. And I don't know how much, even though they have some stuff that date back more to Spanish time, because we've talked about the time between Spanish occupation of Mexico and the Mexican independence, and then the United States government taking over most of Arizona's very narrow window, 40 years or so. So, but Mexican mining definitely there. And there are a lot of those mines, been in quite a few of them. And then, of course, the other problem is then the people, who would come afterwards would find some of those mines and open them up again, finding some trace of gold, because there would still be an assay show. Oh, there's gold here, even though they took out most of the gold. And so they would dig more and change the original workings a bit. So you go in them and you get, a lot of the older mines are kind of rat holes. They're very narrow. Some of them you crawl through. Even the hard rock mines, they're not always timbered. And who knows, there's the stories of the Apaches covering the number of mines, but there's a number that were still open. There's a couple we're going to check this fall that are still look relatively open, or someone's opened them, and they kind of fit some of the criteria of Jacob Waltz's mine. So we're going to look into them and look at them. One in particular, which is on the south end of the range, and it fits a lot of Waltz's directions and stuff to some degree. And it looks like it's a possible open pit, but an angled pit. And I'm very curious about it. So Frank, myself, and Trevor will go out there and look at that one. It was never a Mexican mine or a Peralta mine. That's why it never shows up on other maps. Okay, well, a lot of the mines I know out in the mountains that are older never have been on maps. We found them because we just walk around in the mountains, and if you cover ground systematically in areas and go, well, let's just go this way, let's come down that way, let's just keep doing it, keep running into mines. There's a lot of mining activity. So, and sometimes you find that mines were rediscovered over a period of time, and people necessarily didn't file claims on them. They sometimes just tried to open them up and work them and see what they could find in them. And so there's that. But yeah, we went to quite a few over the years, and it's always interesting to me, especially when you find some of the older ones. I'm at the Mammoth Bar having a beer, or a lot of beers. Jacob Schuse was just here. We'll tell Jacob if you see him again. I said hello. Tell him get back on that tractor, move some dirt. So, but yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think if Jacob's ever came out to the rendezvous. Bob does, and Luann does, but I don't know if Jacob ever has. He probably has. I don't, but I'm just thinking through my head about it. I don't know if it's probably Bob has him working. He doesn't allow him to come out. I don't always know the general interest to Dutch hunter. That's always a little different too. So but he's always digging into dirt or digging somewhere. So the boy loves tractors. So there you go. But yep. So, and it's Friday night at the Mammoth, so people will be drinking because that's what you do at a saloon or bar. So I'll tell Cowboy Dan I said hello. He's working. There's not a lot of the old timers that used to hang out there all the time. A lot of them are gone now. So that's kind of a shame. But Salvador don't drink. He's only there if a bunch of us are showing up and he's aware of it. He'll come down and hang out and stuff. But Salvador doesn't drink. So it's rare to catch him down there unless we're all gathering. Like I said, the weather's great though. If you want to find the LDM, you cannot look for it. Okay? You don't have to look for it. Anyways, I will continue to do my looking. Plus, I love finding the places I find. I mean, just look at, when Frank and Woody were not, I think they were just prospecting in the area and looking at some stuff. I don't know how much it was concerning the Dutchmen when they found that pocket. And, when you find 20 grand gold, that's not bad. And they were looking, so I'll take 20 grand for looking. Hello from Lubbock, Texas. I knew someone from Lubbock, Texas. His name was Tex. His name was actually Darlin Hutto, and he came from Lubbock, Texas. He worked out here. He later was a truck driver, but he also worked as a cook on roundups. My dad used to take him up to Yellow Jacket, drop him off, and he would cook for roundups and stuff. Did you ever read the book by Earl Stanley Gardner about the helicopter survey? So yeah, it covers more than just the superstitions, but I have a hardback copy. I don't know if it was ever in softback, but I do have a hardback of that. Yes, I have that book. It would be hard pressed unless it's something more recent or a smaller vanity project not to find it. There's 100 or so, a couple hundred books on the Dutchman up here. Superstitions and Lost Dutchman mine, and I do have that. I think I have 2 copies. Can't see it from where I'm at, but yeah, it would be nice. See, that's what I need is I need a setup with bookshelves behind me. Hey, Jax, just barge open that door. Hey, buddy. But anyways, yes, I've read that book, Earl Stanley Gardner. You also have the book on the Lost Dutchman mine, Robert E. Lee's Lost Dutchman mine book, and he did the film. They're good books to read. Interesting. It's interesting to read those books because these are people that in the 50s and 60s were physically active out there. A drone will never find the. I agree with that 100%. I don't think if most of the mines that people find through Google Maps, Google Earth, or drones are mines that have been reopened. I mean, if they've been covered or something, it's almost impossible. There's mines I know of that are open, and unless a pit at an angle, and it depends what angle's at. A lot of times you just don't see it. And there's been a couple. I know Adam Stewart's, one of his mines, is on the left side up in Peralta Canyon. And we did that at one rendezvous. We hiked up there, took a group up there. And I never knew it was there. They found it, I think, because they were across from it at another prospect he dug. And they saw the opening. And it was in kind of a narrow crevice. And then you got back in there, and there was a tunnel. You worked back in there. Very odd place. But it's, you find stuff. Teton Ken Eddy always has a great story. If he took some guys up in the mountains, found a cave back in there. I think it was in Peralta. And he said he went in just to check it out a little bit because he was guiding them, and found this old rifle, makeshift rifle, where the guy had kind of put together parts and made a rifle out of it. And he found that up on a shelf in there. There's always cool stories of people finding stuff in there still to this day. If there, okay, any info on where Henry Burns obtained the holy stones from the mountain? Okay, well, we did a video on that. You didn't watch it, I know. He buried them. Okay, he didn't bury them. We did a video on that. We did actually a couple different videos covering that story. Henry Burns wasn't his name. He changed his name a lot, was in prison. He was not entirely honest about any of that. He never was with the Apaches. He lived in California for quite a while until he raised his children. Then him and Helen moved out, had the Burns Ranch, and he made up almost everything you know about him. Nobody had a clue. And I was a bit disappointed to find that out, that he was a bit more of kind of along the lines of Crazy Jake and Chuck Crawford than actually anything real. He had children. The children came and got, after his wife committed suicide, the children got her body, and I think she's buried. She was cremated maybe, but down in Tucson. And they said basically that everything was made up. And it's documented that it is made up, and the Holy Stones themselves, I don't even know if the stories came from him. I think that was a story that Chuck Crawford attributed to him, and I think it was all made up. I think Chuck kind of like spun that story, and then someone else spun that story, and then someone I know, and maybe he'll tell the story. Maybe we'll have to save that real story, but we've kind of told bits and pieces of it. Was out with him. They were going to metal detect out at Burns Ranch. And this individual brought a box full of a bunch of jars and stuff, coffee cans of low-grade amethyst, and then he buried them out there. And then he went out and dowsed and found it. Just mind-blowing. Kind of catches my eye when it says Jeffrey Adams. What's up, Wayne? Jeff Adams, because Jeff Adams was the guy who went out with Gus Barkley when they were looking for Adolph Ruth and searching for him, and then later finding the body. When was that? Probably about 6 months later. Anyways, so yeah, the Holy Stones just kind of, whole thing sucks. Frank has some. Frank has one. I have some. I don't know what happened to the rest of them. I was trying to find out because I thought that would be kind of a neat thing, not just to raffle off, but kind of nice, some giveaway pieces, because there was a few cans of them still sitting around. They didn't burn up in a fire. But I have mine in a bucket in the garage. Can't see them from 15 feet away. How Google find it? And that's what's up, Wayne. I was the first sheriff of Maricopa County. No, you weren't. Jeff Adams wasn't. But that's good. But I have some. You have some Holy Stones? Yeah, so I have some. I got mine from Rick Gwynn. And yeah, I took them out and put them out there from one of the original cans and someone who was there that day. You know who was there also that day? Let's just blow this out of the water. Emery Taylor. And Emery Taylor went out and buried them before he found them. And I never had the heart to tell Rick what I found out because I kind of felt bad because Rick really believed in those. But yeah, that was kind of a con artist thing. But it's a great, interesting story all around it. Yeah, I just will never know what prompted Chuck to make that whole thing up. And it's created its own mythology around it that is just mind-boggling. But once you drive in to look at who Henry Burns was, there's a video we did with Henry Burns, and I go through the whole history, his detailed history of his life. And when you look at that, and then you realize, you start looking at Chuck Crawford, and then you look at the people associated with him and what was going on. It was got very, very interesting, but a mythology built out of that. And it's a shame, because sometimes guys with good hearts and really out there working hard, looking for things, people tend to kind of spin them in the wrong direction and kind of play games with them, and that was kind of upsetting, sad. But I regardless, that basically that Chuck Crawford and that whole thing in association, and Emory Taylor and all that, and I don't know where Emory is. He was back east somewhere. He's talking about. Oh, that was right. He got a hold of Greg Davis, because he doesn't even have copies of his own books anymore, which I have. I have copies of his books, but because there's like 4 or 5 of them, or 3 of them, but they're 5 parts. 1 or 2 of them is like 2 books in one. I don't know. But anyways, I have the books on the Spiral Staircase and Burns Ranch and the Holy Stones. I have all that stuff, and the conspiracies and all that stuff. But anyways, Emory contacted Greg, and he was trying to get copies, or have Greg make copies of the book and everything. Hello everyone. Yes, Stones, that's so funny. Yeah, the Stones were supposed to be able to talk to you and get inside your head and talk. And then there was a main stone. And I think it was kind of probably the 80s, and the time period this story started developing, when all the UFO and aliens and this kind of stuff, which is what we haven't done any alien stories this October, thank God. But kind of this stuff kind of falls out of that stuff. I think it was influenced by the time period and stuff. And they came up with a good story. I mean, let's face it. It is a cool story, but it's unfortunately, like I said, there are several. We did a couple videos on it, and we went. So, where are those bottles? Are they on the Gila River by Florence? Where are Das Buttes? Yeah, I'd have to do that with a map. The Buttes. That was where the first rendezvous was held. Was out looking for the Buttes and the markings by the Buttes. And they went out because is it in Bob Ward's book? I'm trying to think of which book it was in a book, and they got in there in the forum, and they're pulling it apart, and they wanted to find them, and people said they thought they were in a certain spot, and they went out and they brought quads and ATVs and stuff, and they went searching for them to match the photographs. They could match the hills, they couldn't match the markings. So they weren't sure if it was the time of day or something that brought that relief out, or what the whole deal was. But that was the first rendezvous. That's what prompted it. It was they were talking about it and said, let's all meet up, and a group of us search for those and find those, the twin buttes, the 2 buttes, and all this stuff. And that was Joe Roboto, Greg Davis, Jack Carlson, Roger Newkirk. Don't always remember all the names. There was like 12 to 15 people showed up on the first one, and most of them went out and searched for that. And what happened after that was, for the follow-up year, the idea was we'll just keep moving to a different place. And then Greg Davis would talk to Randy Wright and I, and said, why don't you guys get in there and talk to them about taking it to the Don's camp, because it's in the Superstitions. It's a camp. It has restrooms. It'd be a good location, good road to get to, and you guys could always work from that. And that seemed like a really good idea, and we all talked about it and said, okay. And the idea was still, because Jack San Felice said, why don't we one year do it out at the Silver King? And then someone else said, maybe the next year we'll do it out at Lost Dutchman State Park, which I never was in favor of that, because that's like going totally touristy, crappy. But we even talked about like that, and then Goldfield Ghost Town, having it where it was closer in, where everybody could, eat and the facilities there. Even though Shoes has always said, enough people show up, it would be difficult to run it there, the parking and stuff, and the camping and all that. But that was the idea. And once we got into the Don's camp, I think we realized, no, let's just keep this home, because Trek was done. The Trek had ended. The last Trek had happened. and we kind of came in, and they were starting up Discovery Camp, but that was going to be in January, February, which plus two, even though we did it like October and kind of centered it around Waltz's death date. The other thing was we always thought we can move it around maybe, and the idea was I remember even talking to Jack, maybe we'll move it into February, March, where it's the best cooler parts of the month, but we somehow stuck it into the late October, early November, and stuck with that in the Dawes camp. And here we are 19 years later. So probably made a good choice. I think it survived because of that, having stability in that sense. Where everybody knows, oh, it's around this time every year, it's in the same place, and it just is comfortable. The haunted treasure of the Spectra, Gordon, 51 years ago, been hooked on superstitions ever since. Is that the article? It's not a book that I've heard of. I mean, the Dos Buttes in the Kenworthy maps. Is it the same? I don't think so, because Kenworthy had his heart, and his big deal was up by Black Mountain, which used to be Charlie Boy Mountain. And that was his big thing. He had the Kenworthy heart. Amy Mosier wrote a book on that. I have that book somewhere. She wrote that book. She had the quote in there by Greg Davis: "Is Chuck Kenworthy's the only person that ever found millions of dollars worth of gold in the superstitions." And I read the book. I took it to Greg and I went, "You said this?" He said, "She's a very nice girl, very smart." He said, "I never said that." And I said, "Well, that's your quote." So Greg has to live with that. And Chuck Kenworthy. I just was looking at an old letter of his. I don't remember who it was to, and I don't have it here. It was an old letter, envelope and a letter from him about something. I can't remember what it was about. Okay, it was on his official expedition letterhead, which you've made it when you have official letterhead. So that's what we need. A shaman bag often has a talking stone and items. Well, I think that was kind of the idea where Emery Taylor was into that stuff. He was into a lot of UFO stuff and a lot of that kind of stuff. And then they kind of mixed Henry Burns in like he was raised by Apaches, which he wasn't. He left his mom, ended up in prison, married several times, changed his name several times, and was a little bit of a con artist and all that. But I think that was a story he kind of created out of that. And then maybe he did tell it, or maybe just Chuck Crawford told it, because Tom Collenborn knew Henry Burns. And Tom never really told a lot of the stories that Henry Burns said. It was like Tom appropriated the mythology later, and he knew Henry and he visited them, and it didn't seem like Tom always thought they'd been out there a little too long and stuff, and they were very poor. But he kind of was always under the impression that I don't think he believed in that stuff. Have I ever seen anything unidentified in the sky that I would say was a UFO? No. I've flown a lot, spent a lot of time in the mountains. The only thing I would say, I can say it wasn't identified because I don't know where it was. The night before the Phoenix Lights, just south of where I live, nothing was developed, and there was a big hill of dirt. I went up there and sat on it one night with Bronco. Now, I live out by Luke Air Force Base, and also south of Luke Air Force Base is the Goodyear testing grounds for aircraft. And I grew up, we used to go out and watch planes. Go figure, huh? And we were out one night and sitting there with the Bronco and looking up in the night sky, because it was very dark out here then. There was almost no street lighting, so it was very, very dark. You could see the stars great, but you could see the jets coming and going from Luke. And we were watching these 5, 6, 7 lights, and they would go in a group, and then one would drop, and they would drop one at a time. It was weird. I was watching them. I thought about getting the camcorder, but I realized it's probably just going to be blurry. You couldn't really tell what it is. This is pre-cell phone era. So I was just watching it, and then they would do a maneuver. They made kind of like a triangular shape. Then they would make a vertical line, and then they would fade out. Like one would drop, fade, fade. Don't think they were flares. The best thing I came up with later, because knowing drones, I would say more like drones. But it was kind of like I was wondering if it was helicopters. But it was odd. They'd line up, and then one would drop and fade. So it was maneuvers. It was specific maneuvers. And I would place them kind of out over Buckeye, down by the Goodyear Airport, and by Luke. A couple jets took off from Luke, but they never went that way. And I watched that for hours, and I didn't think anything of it except that it's aircraft of some sort because of where we lived and what I always saw in the night sky. It was unusual, and I couldn't tell you exactly what it was, but it was aircraft over by Goodyear in that area and all. Then suddenly this stuff pops up in Cottonwood or wherever, and down to Phoenix and all that. And everything I've ever seen described, it kind of described what I saw, even though what I saw was actually cooler because of the maneuvers and stuff I saw. Never heard any engines, but I will say this, being by look, now I hear when they fly over. When they take off and land sometimes, back then you could hear them occasionally because it's open desert, but it's still the same as, something could be 4 or 5 miles away and you still wouldn't really clearly hear it. So that was my experience when the Phoenix lights happened. I just said, I saw stuff like that last night. I didn't think it was anything odd, and that was that. And so ever since then, I've always figured it had to be whatever I was looking at because it was too similar. People talk about the lights and everything about it. I don't think it was flares, but I think it was whatever I was seeing. I don't know if it was associated with Goodyear or any other testing grounds or Luke, but that was that. And even the night of the Phoenix lights, Luke wasn't setting craft up. Luke's a pretty active Air Force base. So there you go. Okay. I've never seen one either. So I can say I've seen things. I can't tell you exactly what it is. I don't think they're alien technology or anything. That's something to show all that happened in Earl Mountain 2 weeks ago. Next weekend, I'll just say I haven't seen one, but my phone photo captures something crazy in a single frame. There you go. Hola, hello. Flares. How long ago was that? Well, Phoenix lights, I don't remember. It was a long time ago. It had to be 20 some odd years ago. Let's see, I would say 25, 26 years ago was the Phoenix lights. Somewhere around then. There's books written on it. And that's always been my thing and my stance is if someone can make money off of it, they'll write a book and they'll put it on TV and stuff. And I'm not going to be a guy they're going to say, oh, well, this guy witnessed the same thing and it was just this. Because it's not going to be entertaining in that. It's kind of like self-defeating for them to run a TV program and just say, yeah, it was just, some sort of testing. So that would be the end of that story, and it kind of be a bummer at the end. It's kind of, I was just talking to somebody at work today, and I mentioned the fact that, remember the guy who dug that huge pit at Oak Island, and it was like 150 feet, 200 feet deep. It was this huge thing, and we see pictures of it, and it looks like almost like a small copper operation. And now they're digging these little holes everywhere, going like, oh, we think we're on to it. And I'm thinking, don't they remember the guy that dug the giant deep pit? And he didn't find it. And then they run into stuff all the time. And I'm thinking, that guy created all kinds of havoc. Me and my buddy Ted, I had a friend named Ted. Well, he's still alive. And we won't be bringing Bud Light to the rendezvous. No, you should bring Coors Light. So bring cans of Coors Light, silver bullets. And since I've been the host of the rendezvous for all these years and stuff, and Fireball is kind of the hard liquor of choice. It always seems to be, I don't know where that came from. Just everybody started bringing Fireball. The Fireball runs around. But the beer of choice should be from here on out always Fireball. Kim's going, yeah, Fireball. The beer of choice should be Coors Light. We should do silver bullets for werewolves. Coors Light, the beer that we've never had a werewolf attack in the rendezvous, and that's because we bring Coors Light. So we'll have to bring some Coors Light. I think the last Bud Light I drank was at the rendezvous. It was given to me by Paul Hopper, I believe. I'm trying to remember if Dan was alive. But the Hoppers always had beer, and I think it was 2 Bud Lights they gave me. Thomas Glover was talking, and I took the beers down for me and Thomas to make a toast. We made a toast that night to a lot of the people that couldn't be there, home partners, Dutch hunters, and so forth. That was the last time I drank a Bud Light, because that's what they had. And now I would say, now the official rendezvous beer, our official sponsor, because we buy it, and that's what we drink. Then you see the orb. Possible, It's possible after enough of that. I'm sure a few of those guys have seen something. Um, it's amazing that they would drink till 1, 2 in the morning and could barely talk straight. Couldn't remember where the hell they were. Get in their trucks and drive out that crazy road in the middle. And nobody ever had an accident. Nothing ever happened. So I do think I saw Bigfoot once back in '84. Mike McChesney also believes he saw Bigfoot. So there you go. A lot of people believe they saw Bigfoot. It's not. I don't have a problem if someone says, I believe I saw a ghost. I believe I saw Bigfoot. I believe I saw a UFO. But in the same captured moment, you should not have a problem if I say, I don't believe in Bigfoot. I don't believe in UFOs. I don't believe in ghosts. So if I feel that it's a mutual respect. And I can say, I don't know what you saw. I wasn't there. But the same token, I've been in the mountains and the wilderness, and people say they see things that I've looked at things that's. The footprints we found a couple times in the mountains have been odd, but there's nothing. Frank kind of blew it up, but I took the picture of the one down by Bird's Ranch where Rick said he saw a Bigfoot. It was a bare footprint. It was odd. The more clear, distinct one we found was up in Hewitt. And that one was really weird because we were in a real rugged spot, and it just like suddenly there were these bare footprints, and I was like looking at Frank like, why would these even be here? Who the hell's running around out here bare feet? So yeah, I was full of like just cactus needles, stickers and stuff, and I couldn't believe it. So, but yeah, you see stuff like that, but then you go, well, there's someone completely lost their mind is running around out here with shoes. Let's see. Did you ever check out that cave just before the spiral? Ceiling covered in a honeycomb from front to back. No, I didn't check that out because we only went out the one more time, and then it got too hot, and I wanted to go back in with a kind of a different approach, and because I wanted to do a much different approach on it, and the area with other people and how I wanted to do it, I decided not to tackle anything else. So we tackled that one. I remember the last time we went, it was just the two of us. And we went in, and I pretty much shouldn't have been in there because I had stitches in my back and stitches in my head. I just had surgery. I'm out there climbing around in there. It's a bad idea, which is hence why you see there's that one period I'm wearing the bandana around over my ears. I wasn't seeing, someone said, man, you're too old. Okay, I had surgery. I broke my stitches. I was in a lot of pain. It was a dumb move, and I admit that. It was too hot. It was getting too hot. The day wasn't too bad, but just everything accumulated and being out there, that was a dumb move. And I should have known better, but I did it anyways. Still tough enough to be stupid. No problem with that. I'm not even sure what it was. See, that's what I always think. Whatever it was, it stunk. There you go. And I've met a few of those guys. They live downtown on street corners, and they get out in the mountains. I'm not going to use any names, but if you've come to the rendezvous and you're like, holy crap, when that guy takes off his jacket, it smells like something died. Anyhow, getting around that, away from that. I don't even know where we were because we're kind of doing that flow of conscious, stream of conscious thing, just jumping out there. I have a picture of it. Of an orb. They are real. Well, I've seen a lot of pictures of dust in places too. So you can say orbs are real, and I can say dust is very real, and we can still sit down and have a Coors Light, pass the fireball, have a good time, and find things that we agree on, and then entertain ourselves with talking about, not trying to convince each other, but talking about things we disagree on, which is always healthy. That's one of the things that people have forgotten is communication, being able to communicate that you can have a different view, different thought than me, and we can still be friends. We can still have great conversation and learn things. Currently, Rim Country. Rim Country is a beautiful country. Spent a lot of time in superstitions as a young man. Really enjoy your show. Maybe acquainted, not sure. First catching live, Kenneth Hyde. Really, we may be acquainted, though I'm not sure. Okay. I don't know what that is. Cardiac's still on for Saturday. There's a couple ideas we have, and it'll depend. The weather's really nice, and it'll depend on the people who want to go. I'd love to do cardiac. I'd like to take everybody up, and I got several options. I'd like to take them down. There's a old stone with cavalry soldiers on it, the Peralta stone down at Barks Draw, but there's also the cave trail and kind of enter into that. And I don't think we want to do all the way to Devil's Slide, but there's the fortress out that way. But there's also kind of the whole thing with Adam Stewart's grave and the Linesby house and the crematory cave. So depending on the group we have and my judge of where we should be, that will be kind of being what it is. There. I'm going to go back Friday morning before the rendezvous and see how much further I can get in that honeycomb cave. And if I swing by, see if I got a pack of cigarettes. Now, leave my cigarettes there. That's a tribute. That's a thank you note. Those cigarettes should always forever stay with that Coors Light can down at the bottom of that mine. They should stay there. And if I ever get stuck down there, then I have a pack of smokes. I saw the Jersey Devil once with some assistance. Okay, and Strawberry Mountain Sanctuary, Amazing Wilderness. Me and Buddy Ron are going to show you how to use dowsing rods for finding gold. We use dowsing rods to find electrical conduit and all kinds of stuff like that. Woody does them for gold. People do them for gold. I always kind of watch them, but they do work for dowsing on electricity and stuff. I don't understand the principle, but I can use them for that. So I do have dowsing rods. Okay, so but it'll be cool if you guys want to get up and do a dowsing rod catch me Friday or early Saturday and talk to me. If you want to do a thing and talk to everybody about the use of dowsing rods, we can give you 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and you can get up and talk to everybody about it. I always find that stuff fascinating. See, there you go. And we'll call you Strawberry Mountain Sanctuary, Amazing Wilderness. There you go. But I don't know if that's your name. But orbs are drones, maybe. Kim, you're just gonna mess with them. I'm jealous of you guys out west. I'm stuck. Yeah, well, that sucks. Hi, Larry. How you doing? Then we moved down. I'm kind of staying up a bit. Glare's bad. You can see it on my face today. The glare is bad. I'm glad I'm not using this screen over here. If I was using both screens, it would be terrible because that screen's almost glaring back at me on this side. So I'm not getting a reflection much of it from it. I guess you can see a little occasionally, but yeah, well, you can. When I put up my hand, you can see how much reflection's coming off of that screen. But yeah, I'd be blind. Me and my buddy Ted are bringing complimentary 5 years of wisdom. There you go. Anybody named Ted's usually pretty cool. I know a lot of Teds, and they're all cool. Wisdom on topics including underwater basket weaving and ceiling tile replacement. I did a ceiling tile replacement. Did you do it back when it was all full of asbestos? Did you ever receive the picture I sent you? Just wondering. I don't know. You'd have to refresh me on what it is. Rendezvous sounds like a blast. Nice guitar collection, man. You ought to do a show on those. Have done that. Ted Nugent. I've met Ted Nugent a number of times. Ted's a pretty cool guy. Great guitar player. Push the politics side. He's probably killed he should be in the top 15 all time of guitar players easily. The man is phenomenally gifted, but his politics and the personality and so forth rubs a lot of people the wrong way. And unfortunately, that's gouged him heavily. I don't think he gives a shit, but at the same time, pretty cool dude, pretty nice guy. But he knew how, there's a little P.T. Barnum in everybody, and Ted has his. Have fun later. Okay. And I hope the wife's doing well, and hope you're doing well. So, out there, New York land, wherever it is. Make sure the weekend about the Salt River area. My name is Larry. Larry is a good name too. Great guitarist. I've never been to Arizona. It's a bucket list trip. Reckon a fall winter would be better. Yeah, come out in the fall, late fall or winter, early spring. Then the weather's the best. Don't come out here in the summer if you want to have fun in the Sonoran Desert. Now, if you want to go up north, it's warm, but at least it's nice because Arizona's an odd place. as much snow falls any place back east up north, but then you get out in the open deserts, it's hot, and it's hot a lot. There we go. Yeah, fall, winter, January through March, usually the best time. Arizona Gold Hunter will be flying in Sunday. Anyways, yeah, the rendezvous will be a great time. And anybody who wants to get up and talk for a few minutes or has a subject matter, has something set up they really want to kind of convey, get out. We got 3 or 4 things going, and we always can build up the program more, help everybody out. Jack San Felice will be there. He's really kind of working hard towards it, and he had a little mishappening, but he appears that he still will be there. We've been talking. Superstition Mountain's haunted. It's haunted by me, haunted by everybody who goes in there, but not haunted like you think. I've never seen anything like that or felt like anything like that. Never had a problem. But that's part of the reason I like to kind of go out and kind of take people that believe in that stuff and then go out with them, and not necessarily to, well, I do make fun of them, but to have fun and then look at trying to understand the experience of why someone feels that way. I understand it's more psychology than reality, but it's interesting because you kind of sit there and go like, why do they think this does this? Why do they think this means this? And I find that fascinating because it's the age-old thing why they can sell snake oil, because people will believe in stuff. And it's unfortunate when that happens, that everybody thinks, there's miracle cures and this and this and this. But I kind of like, I love the psychology of just treasure hunting. I love the psychology of that kind of stuff. The UFO people are a little more difficult when they think they've been abducted and they get into the underground bases of the serpent people and other stuff. And I have a lack of patience for some of it because I've been in the mountains, and the lack of any evidence and some of the stories are just absolutely so ridiculous. And some of the books, like, you go out there and you're just like, this isn't true. This isn't real. They don't even do any good background work on their books. That causes me a problem with it. So I am still patient and I try to be kind, but it does get difficult occasionally when someone is just taking someone else's book and someone else's books, taking someone else's happening, and then they're trying to put it on you, and you're like, but there's nothing here. If you didn't see it, then what the hell, man? And I've not seen any reptile people. The silence, and you can hear your heartbeat. That's what's cool in the mountains. It's cool in the mountains, is it gets so quiet, and you don't realize how loud it is for most of us, regardless of where we live, till you get deep in the mountains and you're out there by yourself and it's dead quiet. And you can just hear that ringing in your ears, because it's not because you play the music too loud or a lot of other things anymore. It's just there's so much noise. I'm sitting in this room and I can hear so many noises around me. Now, they're not damaging my hearing, but there's so much noise. And when you get into a place where it's totally quiet, you can hear the wind just whistling through a leaf or two. It's amazing, how quiet it is, how peaceful. Anyway, that was the first time I got a live stream. I'm a guitar player too. There you are, Kenneth Hyde. And maybe I can make the rendezvous. That'd be cool. Been quite a year ever since I've been down that way. Keep up your good work, man. Thank you very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Everybody should be a good player, a guitar player, and a good player at that. Like Sal. Like Sal what? Sal's seen everything. And he doesn't drink. Amazing. Was there a trail from the quarter circle U to Whitlow Ranch? If so, is it the coffee there? Yeah, there's lots of trails going out that way. If you're at the quarter circle U and you start going east and you start heading that way, there's a road now, but the trails and everything go all the way out. There's a trail right there, but there's several roundup and ranch spots along the way. You find all the way out into Reed's Water, and it all interconnects. You'd be amazed at east of the quarter circle U how many roads are still out there, because everybody drove around out there. Once they had the automobile, they still used horses to work, which they still do today, but they drove a lot. You kind of get thrown off at how many roads are out there in the open desert in areas where there should be roads. And like I said, first water, the Dutchman Trail was a road to Brush Corral Basin. When I was a kid, you could see it. It followed down lower than the current trail, but it was a road basically they'd used. And John Pierce wanted to run that all the way to Blacktop, and I've talked about other things. So, hey, Jax, you just hanging? Okay, cool. But anyways, yeah. So you can. There's almost something connected now. They're used less and less and less over time, so they're disappearing. Okay, my buddies Ron and Ted show you how to douse for gold, but not with Bud Light. Now we'll have Coors Light, and we'll bring our dowsing rods. Maybe we'll give a set of dowsing rods away in the raffle or something that night. I have quite a few sets sitting out in the garage. Woody dowses too. My dowsing story, because I'll tell the dowsing story. So they went to dig my pool and they hit, what is it, an 18-inch, 24-inch water line main. And lucky they didn't break it. But turns out that he put the water main in back in the days of the farms and stuff. And they'd run this thing out here and were unaware that it was running through my yard and capped off behind my house. Kind of dangerous. And especially since it wasn't coming up on anything and no one was aware of it. They gave me a permit. So anyways, so we came out and they were trying to measure it out in front of the house in the road, and they wanted to basically cut it off and cap it out there, not cap it somewhere in my yard on my property. So I have this big, huge pipe that runs under my. It actually runs within like 7 feet of my front door underground. That's pretty funny and scary. Anyways, they came out and they used everything they had and they dug and they missed it. They missed it several times trying to get some traction of where it was. And then this older Mexican gentleman went out to his truck from the water company, grabbed 2 dowsing rods, spun them up, went out, and then started telling them where to mark. And they marked and they hit it dead center. And me and him had a bunch of conversations that afternoon about the rods, because people in the electrical utility industry use them as well. They're not considered a reliable tool to use in their official capacity, but they will work with moving water pipes and stuff like that. Now, my only problem is, since I know where everything is, and subconsciously I could be doing that myself. So we've had a few things we wanted to test doing it. I had some water lines put in somewhere, and I wanted to be like, don't tell me where it's at, and then I'm going to have to wait, come out and see if I can. It would be hard to do, but I always wanted to check and see does it work if I have to know where. I don't know. Unfortunately, I know where my electrical water is. We did the how much raffle tickets use. I think they're $5. I think we do 5 for $20, $5 a piece, and 5 for $20. I'd have to ask Trevor. I think that's what they are, though. I left a bar one night with a solid 10. I woke up the next morning and my dowsing rod led me to water at least 4 times. There you go. Complete silence is wonderful. Good time, perfect for a life. Love all you do, Wayne. Oh, everybody can read that. Thank you. Thank you. It depends on the person. I can douse, but it doesn't work for my wife. They absolutely do work. Made my cow. Made my own. I said made my cow. They have light. I made my cow. That was actually a better story. Can't seem to find any info on the location of the heart carving on South Butte Mountain. Do you know of any actual location, or is it just another story? When you come out to the rendezvous, someone will be able to tell you. I think, shit, I know. Greg Davis will know, though. And Jack Carlson will be there from the hiking guides, and Jack will know as well. My old surveyor co-workers use dowsing rods. A lot of people use them. I used gas. GPS. Woody sold me rods working. Woody, I love Woody. I won't say nothing. Yes, they do work. I made mine too. Yes. So Woody believes in a lot of things, and he believes in the spirits and the fairies and stuff. Woody got so bad when we were filming towards the end that I smudged him. And if you know what smudging is, I smudged Woody to kind of calm him down, because I understand more often than not, it's the psychology that will get you before anything else will. The psychology will mess you up and turn you inside out. We always overthink things. Because of that, I made sure I tried to make Woody more comfortable, and I think it helps some. But yeah, he felt we had done something, he'd done something, and there was some sort of curse. And I couldn't explain to him is how come not all of us are cursed, or only a couple people are cursed. Well, how's this working? And so the problem is the person that believes in the curse wholeheartedly and thinks something's wrong and something's happening. Yes, they can cause panic through a group of people, but then they also can affect themselves and affect everything by their own behavior. So it's best to always work within those parameters. So yes, you can say I'm a non-believer. You can say I'm an asshole. You can say a lot of things, but I did smudge Woody to make sure he felt better. Dowsing works. My buddy Ted showed me how, but not with Woody. We don't drink Bud Light. I think I've seen that before. Didn't we just do that before? Yeah, you guys said that before. Now it's repetitive. So then we moved along. Man, we've almost done an hour of this. What's wrong with us that we can do an hour? This is our last one before I take a break. Next Friday will be probably a short video on the rendezvous or something, me just talking, and on the rendezvous or some archival footage. We'll have Mondays, which will be the end of October, but we'll be getting back towards the Dutch hunting, so we'll be taping everything for Monday, Friday, the next Monday, and then we will be up in the mountains. And hopefully there'll be a lot of good stories and stuff, and maybe we'll do some interviews and get a bunch of stuff loaded up. Somebody can get a little break from me talking all the time. I know everybody says, oh, you're so good at this. Yeah, but I got so much crap flowing through my head because I pick up what I pick up from other people. But today there was about this pile of this much stuff I was pulling out of my phone that I printed up because I was looking at maps and information and stuff that I've pulled out of archival records that I've taken pictures of over the last few years. And I'm going, where did I find? In fact, I sent something to McChesney, who was visiting Dr. Thomas Glover. And I sent him, hey, talk to Thomas about this map. And he's like, where'd you get it? It was in my phone. And I know whose name it is because it has it on the map. But I'm like, I end up with this crap in my phone all the time. And then I forget about it as I keep moving down. And suddenly I got 5,000-6,000 files of stuff. And I'm having to get it all through there and clear it out. The black-handed Woody did seem a little spooked. Oh, he gets spooked bad. Frank saving his life. That's a true story. That's a good story. I look forward to seeing Woody next weekend. He's one of the nicest people. Woody is very, very nice. Very nice guy. Everybody loves Woody. When is your next search? There's a whole bunch. And we'll talk. If you come out to the rendezvous, we'll talk. I got a bunch of stuff kind of on the slate, and I'm waiting to see how things play out the next month or so. But yeah, before the end of the year, there's 4 or 5 trips I'm making for specific reasons. Some with Frank, some not. I have some things I just seriously, it's not bucket list, but it's things I want to check off that I kind of got stuff kind of piled up behind me. And I want to just kind of get some of that stuff. I really wish I could introduce you to Daryl Lane. He's got tons of treasure stories. If you search his name on YouTube, there is a video. He is in a lot of superstition videos. Okay. Is he out here? No, he could just had to be a great speaker he'd be a great speaker at the rendezvous. Well, gotta meet me. Whiskey or tequila. Don't do the tequila. Last time they did the tequila, everybody got weird. Weird, stupid drunk, not making sense drunk. It was kind of got funny. It was funny for a while, and then it was wow, we're dealing with mentally handicapped children around here. It was very difficult because what they mixed it, they start always with beer, and then they started drinking some whiskey, and then they drank a bottle of tequila. Then they went back to the whiskey, and then drinking some beers. And by that point, Eric, not Dalil or Magnuson, another Eric, associated with the Feldman family, way out there, was talking, man, we had no idea what he was even talking about sometimes. But yeah, that was a She was actually apologized to me. So that's the last time I bring a bottle of tequila. He says I went and passed it around. By the time it got back to me, he said it was empty, and I thought, oh crap. And that does happen. I don't know his number. Okay, I'll have to ask. I can ask around. I'll bring the lines. I've seen some strange things in that desert. The whole state has its share of strange. Strangeness is different than supernatural, paranormal strangeness. You can have natural occurrences that are completely strange, and if you don't understand the scientific or natural theory behind it, it can seem totally just mind blowing. You can take someone that can do sleight of hand, and it's just simply right there in front of your eyes, but because you don't catch it or quite understand the mechanics of it, it's very strange. It can be upsetting, and it's just it's engineered in that case. Smoked maple, not Creek. Oh, yummy. Yeah, so a lot of the stuff that circulates around there, and I've seen some. There was this. There's I couldn't even. But yeah, the fireball for some reason was the thing that kind of worked its way around. The other problem is that some years it goes around, some years it doesn't as much, because I think everybody wants a bit of clarity telling stories. And then you always have the tight ones that are just like, well, everybody's just drinking and telling funny stories, and it's not really funny at all. Well, we've been out here for 48 hours. We've got to loosen up a little. It is what it is. And if you don't drink, you don't know how to enjoy that, then that's kind of the problem. You don't have to be drunk to enjoy it. Look at Sal. He doesn't drink. And it doesn't matter whether you're sober or drunk. Sal's the same. I think he's in a dimensional thing. But I never discount it completely. It's not about discounting or counting. It's just, for me, it's always, if it's there, it's just a similar thing to someone saying, everyone that says they found the lost Dutchman mine, but nobody has a sample of ore to show me or send me or something. I mean, let's put it this way. You found the lost Dutchman mine, okay? And you can take pictures, and you can take a piece of ore sample and send it to me. It doesn't have to have a bunch of gold in it. It could have $5 worth of gold. Doesn't matter. You can send me something and talk to me about it. You don't have to tell me the location. There's so many ways about proving this theory or the idea and what people do, and that never happens. And that's when people say, well, what about this guy? What about that guy? What about this guy? And I'm like, there's so many ways to basically work this out. I think there are right now at least 40 people that know where the lost Dutchman mine is, and there's always some sort of barter weird deal. I'm always like, okay, you know where it's at? Oh, you want to tell me? Tell me. And they never do. And that just puzzles me, because then they're like, well, because eventually they basically say it's because you didn't take me serious. You're an asshole. You're irreverent. You're not this. You're not that. And it's like, okay, then why did you tell me in the first place? Because I'm no different now than I was. Well, the first time you saw the TV show, before you saw the TV show, when I started the Rendezvous 20 years ago, it's the same guy. He's never changed. So what changed in this perception? The best thing I would say psychologically, and probably my scientific guess would be, is you didn't have anything. So, but I do show the samples, and I talk about the samples and the assays we get of stuff we do. So big difference, but oh well. I've heard from half a dozen known they have found the mine. What's funny is all their sites are, everybody's in it. The stone map guys. Let's say, and I'm just going to put a round number on it because I do not want to put anything and try to get detail and all. Let's say there's 100 bone dead, hard-driven stone map guys. They've written books, papers, they got all this stuff, they got research, they got cabinets full of stuff, and they're absent. And those 100 people will take you to 100 different places. And I always make the point of, if something's real, things will collapse into the same point. But if something is completely made up, absolutely has no basis and foundation, anything, any real fact is not real, it will take you any place you deem it or it wants to. And therefore, you can have 100 people go 100 different places up 100 different reasons, and none of them ever seem to end up in the same spot. The only time they end up in the same spot is when they're partners with someone else. Other than that, they always end up somewhere different. The dog deserted me. All the dogs deserted me today. The search is a treasure. I still go out with these guys. I'll still listen to everybody, and I'll still sit there because someone's going to be right eventually, right? And you love to hear why people think it is. What does the carving with the circle and a dot? Well, if it's a circle with a dot in the middle, that usually means treasures here. Triangle with a dot is treasures here. The mines here. It's kind of a location thing. Sorry, or nearby, very close by. And there's only one I've ever found that I never found a mine, anything associated with it. It's a triangle on the end of a rock. And I found other markings, and then the triangle has a dot in it. And I looked all over the area and never found any sign of anything there. So I don't know what it was supposed to be telling me, but there is a rock that has like a triangle carved out in it. And I tried to sight through that, and none of that made any sense. So who knows? Maybe someone had way too much time on their hands. Kenneth, exactly. Okay. I don't know what we're okay. The circle, but yeah. Generally, if there's a dot in a circle or a triangle or something like that, it means treasures nearby, something to that effect, is generally the assumed thing. Now, you don't know who you're dealing with because that person's perception of what they were trying to say could be something completely different, which can happen as well. It's that Newman point. Well, and the best thing to do when you find stuff like that is just try to correlate it with anything else. Like I said, there was one of the places I found recently that was very interesting to me was a point where I found where there'd been an open pit. I kind of see where there would have been possibly a camp. I found the remnants of an old trail, and I want to investigate and look over the area because it fits a lot of Dutchman clues. I don't think it's probably the Dutchman, but I could not find anyone who had ever worked the site, any mining claims in that general area. And so I just kind of quietly, the last couple of years, kind of looked at it and was like, how come no one seems very aware of it? So I want to just check it out and get a sample and see what it could be. Could be probably nothing, but it is very, very interesting spot, the location and how it fits a lot of clues. And it actually kind of, that was what bothered me. It was one of those things where I looked at it and said, it actually fits the Dutchman mine clues better than 90% of the mines people find. Larry Hedrick suspects Music Mountain. Yeah, okay, Larry. But Larry's not a Dutch hunter, but Larry's not this. I like Larry. We talk. We have great conversations. God, if there was anybody more of a skeptic than me, it'd be Larry. Sometimes, depending when you're talking to him. I haven't talked to him for a few weeks. I'm supposed to call him to remind him on the rendezvous. Hopefully he's doing well. Wayne, how often do you get out in the mountains to search for things? Well, during the summer, I don't do it anymore. I've heard Music Mountain too. I know Music Mountain's going to become the new Peters Mesa, which became everybody jumps to now. Everybody's into the Music Mountain. We were covering Music Mountain for quite a while back in the early 2000s. And there's a lot of interesting things. I've told some stories, some stuff up near that area, if you're paying attention to my stories. So, but nothing ever super significant. No, it's always kind of like, we named the Peters Mesa after the Petrashes. No, they didn't. It was named after a cattleman named Peters, but everybody wants it to be Petrash, and because they were up there in search for the Dutchman. No, they weren't. But hey, somebody says it today, then that's just what it is. Larry knows Daryl. Okay. Well, if Larry knows Daryl, then Larry can tell me, but yeah, I'll have to remind him. Music Mountain was interesting. We were looking for some old trails up there. And I think I talked about it. I don't know if it was in the lives or the Chasing Legends and stuff, but we were talking, and I was talking to Peter Esposito, was looking for some stuff, had been up there looking for some old trails and some stuff, and I can't remember what the specific things were and all. And Randy Wright did not make it up. And I talked about it, but I think I did a Chasing Legends on it. I talked about being up there and stuff, but it was trying to think of all the details. It's funny because when the stories come back to you, they come back to you, and then you sit around and really concentrate to try to get them back. But I remember Peter wanted to go out there. Randy couldn't. I don't know why. If it was during the time he broke his foot or whatnot. and I went out several times. But the thing I was getting is you got Herman for trash, and Herman's cave, Herman's this, Herman's camps, Herman's this, and this, and this, and this. And then you go through journals and diaries and actual documentation to find people were not associated with those things, but it becomes just a matter. And this Chasing Legends coming Monday will be a little of that, is what you've read in books and what you know is very different than the actual story sometimes, because it's all about entertainment value and mystery, intrigue, and selling books sometimes. Likes Larry Hendrick, and I like music and Fireball. Music and Fireball it doesn't have to go together, but yeah, Larry's good. Yeah, I hope Larry makes it out. I don't know if he will. He usually rides out with someone. Is it pizza time? No, it's carnitas time. It's carnitas tonight. I can smell it. There's carnitas in a crock pot. So it's tortillas and carnitas tonight. And if you don't know what carnitas is and tortillas, well, you're missing out, and I'm not going to explain it. I think an earthquake probably concealed the mine forever. Okay, James, I'm going to explain something. If you go out in the Superstition Mountains, you will find rocks. And I guarantee you, if there's 4 or 5 of us, we can push these rocks off the tip of these other rocks. And they've been sitting there for probably hundreds of thousands of years, if not millions of years. And there are rocks balanced all over the mountains like that. The problem is they didn't just fall from the sky and balance there. They've been there for that whole period of time. There was erosion damage. I will go with erosion. I will go with that type of thing. But as far as an earthquake theory, I think that is total crap. Because no matter what happened in town, and even though that is mountains and it's an inactive volcano and it's the calderas, I look around and see stuff. I've found rocks and boulders that are perched on things, and there's nowhere around there they could have come from, and they're sitting on there. They're not Spanish markers, but I look at them and go, we call them hoodoos sometimes and it's different things, but it would have tipped over. And so I take that whole theory and kind of put it out, because I thought about it, and they did that with Unexplained, Unexplored. They really tried to go with it. And I said, guys, you've been out there with me. There wouldn't be balanced rocks everywhere. There's balanced flat rocks on tips and pinnacles. It's like, come on. And then, then the next guy comes and tells me, well, the Spanish put it there. There was like 90-foot tall Spanish guys that were giants. And then we're in a different, History and Discovery Channel will do that. The giants that built the stone monoliths in the superstitions. And unfortunately, I did say that. And it really sucks, because probably someday someone's going to do that and write a book on the giant stone monoliths, the monoliths built by the giants of the superstitions, an ancient race, and blah, 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 blah. And if they do so, I should get a percentage of the book sales and everything, because I came up with the idea first. Giants didn't do that. They didn't build that stuff. My buddy Ted and I found rocks between, and we almost froze to death after hiking in. So, it can get cold. Then it snowed overnight. Yes, yeah. Well, there's the trip. I don't think we've went in detail. We'll have to do it sometime. We do a slideshow of the pictures. I went in with Greg Davis. Well, I didn't go in with him. Greg Davis, Kevin Nunemacher, I think Jack Carlson, Randy Wright. God, there was a couple other people. Anyways, I ran late. I got in. It was about 8 degrees when I hit the parking lot at First Water. I jogged from First Water to almost all the way to Second Water because it was so cold. I only wore a hoodie, and I had to wear a bandana on my face to keep, so my breath, because it was so freaking cold. And we got in. By the time we got to the red paint mine, because I caught up to everybody, and then it got colder because they weren't running. I was jogging, so at least my body temperature kind of started to hold up. But it was really everything was iced over. There was thick ice. We have pictures of the ice. Everything was iced up in there. And we got to the red paint mine, and Greg decided to take a break. He'd take a nap sometimes. He was taking a nap there. And we were looking at John Tuning's mine and back in that. But that day was really cold. But I remember walking out, because once they finished up, I said, hey, guys, I'm going to take a jog back out of here, back to my truck, and go watch a football game, because it was a Sunday, I believe. Maybe it was a Saturday. I was watching college football or playoffs. It might have been playoffs, so it was a Saturday. Anyways, I ran from Red Paint Mine over by Chuck Haler's cabin around there. I ran all the way from there back to the parking lot, got my truck so I could turn on the radio and listen to the game, which is what Peter Esposito wasn't on that trip because he didn't want to miss the football game. Anyhow, so I made it back to the truck and all that, but it was so cold. But on the way back out, it was pretty damn warm. It was so weird how it just flipped like that. I had that hoodie in my hand all the way out. I was sweating like crazy. So the mountains will do that. I've been out there and I told about the storm on the main mountain. Man, that weather can take you and it can catch you off guard. My buddy Ted say you were a good sport, and I both say you are a good sport. Okay. You have to put up with my nonsense comments for months. That's okay. Can't wait to meet you next week, brother. Oh, you don't owe me a beer, but not a Bud Light. That's fine, perfectly fine. Just, you owe me a story or two. There you go. But the best thing at the rendezvous is bring your story or 3 or 4, but then also listen and all that. And sometimes it's a little redundant. Sal loves a good audience, but it's really good to listen and kind of meet the acquaintances and the experience. The only thing I'm sorry about is I'm glad I've been there so many years to meet so many people and learn so much, because as these people pass along, there's less and less experienced people coming in that camp. It's one of the things, and I've said this before, I love talking psychology of treasure hunting with Clay Worst, because both of us, Clay is a much nicer man. He's a good Christian man, and we are very different, but we love talking about psychology of what's inside of people that makes them do things, what causes them to believe stuff and all. We have very different views in some ways, but at the same time, we both have great conversations about that, the insight into that. The portals at Skinwalker Ranch are caught on thermal. Best way to find a mine is search for cold hot. Wow, no, that was a big thing of mine. We had the FLIR. I told them, take the hottest day, let's hit this ridge and watch the other side for any cold spots. Anything cold, because of cooler temperature when the rocks are still hot. They said, especially anything facing west. Because my thought would be the reflective heat, which really gets held and then it just comes off. You're going to see those spots. That was a big thing of mine. And I said, we should go out and just work some areas with that. Just humor me. And let's do that. And I've always talked about that. Nobody listens to me. He's seriously an awesome. Clay's so awesome. Yeah, Terry Carter had a very similar friend named June. Okay. Yeah, and I love Terry too, man. Terry's such a good guy, man. So I always the best for Terry, man. It's funny because, there's people out there that, do I use the word dirt bags? People that try to take advantage of things. They give a shit just about money. They don't really give a shit about this stuff. And that's really sad because they're just trying to kind of make people buy into stuff and all. And I hate that. If you're just about attention or just making a buck off of it, go piss off. But no, but Terry's a good guy. The stuff he does, he loves pulling that stuff. And I know some of the background of Terry and stuff and all the history and all, but man, I really like Terry, man. I always have a big smile when I see him. He just got a good personality. He's a good guy. You're brilliant. Thermal vision is. Well, I still think the thermal stuff is just in those mountains with the heat signatures and the way things cool down. Terry's done a hell of a job documenting the stories of old time. Yes, he's done a lot of great stuff, and he does fantastic off-the-wall stuff. And we laugh about it and stuff, but I know he gets into that stuff. And that's fine, man. I still call him. We still talk on the phone. We have a good laugh and stuff. And doesn't change my opinion of him. I still think he's an awesome person. He can, people like Terry and Sal can be one step from an insane asylum and still be great people to hang out with. And Terry knows I mean that with my tongue in cheek. Yeah, I wish he could too. He comes out every other year, so he comes out, and I enjoy sitting around because he's one of the guys that'll sit up really late and sit out there and talk all night and stuff. So I kind of miss him not gonna be out there this year, but you never know when he'll pop up. He pops up in odd places. It's in keep the history alive. Using thermal should be a no-brainer. Dallas, what up, Dallas? Was the Spanish armor really found at the castle? I've never seen any evidence or any photographs or anything of proving that it was Spanish armor. That's the thing. That was just their story, and that's all we have. I have another story. One of the places I thought about going to hike, depending on the group, is another place that has a story of Spanish armor found in that area. And maybe once that's on my checklist of things this winter. And once I go there and thoroughly kind of go through that and kind of make my decision on that, whether or not I tell that story. But there's several places that it's been seen and talked about. And I've talked to another person. I've been trying to gather these different stories of those sorts, those types of different areas of the mountains where stuff might have been found. And neither of us, I believe, have anything conclusively, any proof. George Collimore wrote in his journal about finding some, and then they found out it was just a piece of old shovel. But he admitted it. He said, they thought it was Spanish armor. They got really excited. They were thinking, oh shit, we found pieces of Spanish armor. This is so cool. So awesome. We've solved something. And then they realized, oh, it was part of a shovel. Because I think they found the rest of the shovel. Have you actually seen any Spanish armor that's been found? I don't know about found. There's Spanish armor at Shoeses in Goldfield. We did the video and we talked about that. I looked at that because I wondered if that Spanish armor was the same armor that Doc Noss had found, because Shoes had bought it. Bob had bought it from someone in New Mexico. And I was wondering, is it Tony? Is it guys Tony something? Well, anyways, I always the names. There's a lot of Tonys in Doc Noss's story. Anyways, I thought perhaps that could be the armor, and the guy had sold it to Shoes. And Shoes went to New Mexico and bought it off him, and picked it up and brought it. And I thought that'd be so cool. But that's the Victoria Peak, whichever you want to call it. But that's the armor from that, and it's not. But that is old. That is authentic, actual Spanish armor in his museum. So, but yeah, that was an exciting moment when I thought, oh, this could be the real stuff. As far as anything brought out of the mountains, and I've actually got to look at, I've looked at some things, and none of it was actually anything I would date that far back. It wasn't hand forged or anything. So people like to come up with stuff. I will say this: sometimes people are honest and they just don't know any different. So I'm not always an expert. That's why I go to people who I know that work at museums and stuff like that and such. So there we go. We've run way over, haven't we? Nah, we're running over, but we're going to get out of here because I got plenty to do. I got a busy weekend, and hope everybody's Halloween's really good. Catch the Chasing Legends on Monday. Hope everybody has a great Halloween. And then, like I said, next Friday, you will not see me. If you see me, you're down at the rendezvous looking at me sitting in a chair. So there you go. Oh, no problem. Thank you, everybody. It was a good discussion, good time today. Glad I got to see everybody who I got to see. Hope everybody that we didn't catch this week is doing well. Catches up to us later, okay? So if I see you at the rendezvous, great. It'd be great hooking up and meeting up with everybody and hanging out. And if I don't, we'll give you an update and everything on that. Give Woody a rough time for us. No, I'll just be happy to see Woody. I haven't seen him for a while, man. I haven't seen him since last earlier in the year. So, but he's doing good. He's been busy, so it'll be good to hook up and just sit around with Woody and hang out for a bit. Always good. Frank, me, and Woody. I like Frank seeing him in that time too. Why is the Jack gone? I don't know. Okay. So, anyways, I didn't get that. I don't know. Maybe it's I'm tired. I need carnitas. It's time for carnitas and tortillas. And hopefully there's tortilla chips, because it's always good to have tortilla chips and salsa with your carnitas and your tortillas and all that. If there's not, then I will be sad. I will not go out and get them. I'm too tired today. So that'll be that. All right. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you for everything. Hey, Jax. There's always some things. Okay, good luck. Powerful battery, 125, easy money. Look at Powerball lottery. It's not enough. I gave up. I'm only gonna. I bought enough tickets at like $1 billion that I'm not gonna 125 million. I got that kicking around in the back room. That's in the back of my truck. It's in my glove box. No, I want the $1 billion. I want the big money. All right. So everyone take it easy. I will catch you later. Catch us Monday. Catch us next Friday. And we will see if we can spot, maybe pop a live or something if we get it good. I just hate sending something out that we're going to buffer and just be terrible. But we will film out there. We will give everybody an update when we get back on the next live the following week. And we'll get back to the groove of things then. Thank you, everybody. Have a good week. This is Wayne Tull, Legends Live, and saying adios, amigos. Hasta la vista.